y'all. I'm Laura Richardson with Relevate, and we are Real Estate Elevated. Today, we're bringing you another episode of I'm Moving to North Carolina, Now What? We're going to be talking about travel agents and how they can actually help you in your life when you are thinking about going somewhere, maybe besides the great state of North Carolina. So I have the honor of interviewing Lynn, the owner of Trip and Sip Travel, and she is going to talk to us a little bit about what her company does, how they do it differently, and maybe even debunking some things that you might think about just local and long distance travel. Karen, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thanks for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about your background and how you even got into this industry. What kind of drew you into the world of travel?
So I have a travel background in that I grew up a Navy brat. So my whole life we just moved. I lived in California, Guam, Hawaii, Georgia, Florida, the Philippines. So we were all over the place. So that probably started my love of travel from the very beginning. But about 10 years ago, actually it was 12 years ago, I started working for Expedia as a travel advisor for them, and just kind of got all my credentials and training through them. And as it started to progress, started to realize that I kind of wanted to give a more one-to-one attention to my clients and make a more local feel to it. So I started Trip and Sip Travel. A lot of people ask where that name came from. I was just kind of putting together some trips where we were going to like Napa Valley and doing wine tastings, and it just kind of grew from that. It has a nice little ring to it, we think. Yeah. But anyway, so now we have 12 advisors, and we cover all kinds of travel. Most of us are local here to Raleigh, North Carolina, but we have one in New Jersey and one in Georgia. And we do book travel from, people all over the U.S. So...
No, that's awesome. So let's talk a little bit about the different types of trips you guys book. Because I know that sometimes, like within like mom groups, for example, we'll think, okay, I'm taking a trip to Disney, or I want to take the family cruise to wherever in the Caribbean. What types of organizing do you do as far as locations or maybe even themed things?
So really, it starts with someone reaching out to us and saying, hey, I've got my grandmother, my family, whatever the group is, or if it's just a couple, we're looking for a vacation, we want to get away, and we just really delve in with what we call our consultation call, much like in real estate, where you're sitting down and you're just asking a lot of questions. Like, what is a good time for you? What do you vision as the perfect vacation? What was your last perfect vacation? What did you like about it? What didn't you like about it? Just getting all that information together, because there's no one size fits all. And so we really want to just find out what's going to be. I mean, most people don't have weeks and weeks of vacation a year. They only have a couple. So we want to make sure that it's not a disappointment, that they're getting what they're hoping for. And so that's how we start with that. We sit down, we find out what they want to do, and then we kind of curate that based on that. It might be a cruise, it might be a trip to Italy, it might be, a Caribbean destination. Some of them are larger and have a lot of activities, and some are quiet. And, so we just kind of find out the best match.
So part of that consultation, I would imagine, is not just the dynamic between them, but the expectation and communication, or when information is going to be relayed to them, as well as where they're thinking about going, and maybe even you guys telling them, hey, you can't do this in that location, or kind of giving them some expectations of what not to expect.
I can't tell you how many people call me and ask me for an all-inclusive resort in Puerto Rico. There aren't any, so immediately we're directing to something else. So yeah, sometimes people do ask. Sometimes, the idea of what something might cost needs to be put in a little bit more in line, but that doesn't mean there's never oh, I'm sorry, you can't do that. What we do is we're like, okay, what drove you to want to go to do that for that? And, here's your price point. You want to go scuba diving, or you want to go snorkeling. Well, maybe that's not the right place, but we can fit you with this one that'll be more in line with your budget. So we can kind of work together with them to get them what they want.
No, that's perfect. And what about timeline? So we talked a little bit about the communication and kind of the preparation. How long outside of when they're actually wanting to go should they be talking to you about this?
That's a hard question. Okay. Because it really doesn't, it varies. If someone's looking at Europe, you really can't plan that 2 years out. You can start thinking about it. You can give us a little tidbits of what you want to do. But if you're going all through Italy or Spain or something something like that, sure, I can book you in a Hilton or a Hyatt or something like that, which are fabulous. But if you're really looking for that authentic feel and you want a really cool villa or a boutique-y little hotel in the city center, they don't typically release their rooms more than a year in advance. So I oftentimes will have to tell people, let's put all your thoughts together and let's get the bones of it, of what you want to do. But I'm not going to start planning this until we get it within 10 months out.
Okay.
Because of that. The other thing that's nice for like a European vacation is people want to know what that air is going to cost. Well, you can't price air more than 330 days in advance. So if that's a catalyst to the budget and what you're going to be able to do, then we really need to have a realistic idea of what that's going to be. But if you're looking at like a sandals resort or a beaches resort or an all-inclusive in Mexico or the Caribbean, those things, you can book those years out. And I would say do it because, one, usually the deposits are fully refundable, and two, a lot of the desirable rooms, or not desirable rooms, but a lot of people want, they don't necessarily want the presidential suite. I mean, yay, but not everybody can get that. They want maybe the ocean view or something like that that's going to be the more moderate price, and those things sell out. So if you get your deposit down, and then that's all we do for the next 2 years, and people sometimes want to make payments on it, we can do that too, then that locks you in, one, on the rate that was offered, then, because it's going to go up. As time goes on and the rooms start to book up, becomes supply and demand, and the rooms start to go up. So it locks in on that lower rate. If it happens to go down, we can still get it. So it's a win-win. And then as the air becomes available, if for some reason the air becomes available and we're like, oh, geez, that was way more than I thought it was going to be, there's nothing lost. We can either move you to another destination or you just take your money back on the deposit.
No, that's great. And do you find that the location we live in is easy for airline travel? So
it's okay. Sometimes I want to move to Charlotte. No, we don't have a lot of nonstop flights. I mean, you got to be okay with a layover in Raleigh. I mean, there are a few destinations, like every Saturday and Wednesday you can fly to Mexico on JetBlue nonstop. But if you're, trying to do something outside that window, forget it. So we're typically going to go through Atlanta, Miami, Charlotte. But, it's not terrible. If you're flying to Europe, you're going to go through Atlanta, JFK, Charles de Gaulle, something like that. There are some nonstops to Charles de Gaulle, which is nice, and London. So there are a few. But I think most people that travel out of Raleigh are pretty familiar with the fact that, a layover. Now, I do not do 2 layovers. That is too much.
Guys. There you go.
There is always a way to avoid that. No one should have to do that. Unless you're going something really crazy remote. But
yeah. So as far as things going the way that you expect, we know that sometimes life happens, and sometimes there's stuff that happens that's completely outside of anybody's control. So let's talk about 2 different ways that can happen. Let's say me and my family all get sick the week before we're supposed to leave. So now this trip that we've paid tons of money on, we can't go. How does having you in my back pocket help me facilitate fixing that problem?
Well, in the beginning, especially, in every case now, ever since COVID, honestly, in any case, I always recommend cancel for any reason travel protection. And we work with tour operators that offer it for very inexpensively. I mean, we're talking maybe $50 a person. So and that's even if you have an expensive trip. It's going to be a little bit higher if you're, $20,000 trip or whatever. But regardless, what it does is it allows you the ability to call me up to 2 hours before your flight. All you have to do is say, I can't go. I mean, you don't have to fill anything out, nothing. And that's it. No forms, no going through insurance companies. You're just getting either a full travel credit or a cashback refund, depending on which plan you choose. The cashback refund one's going to be a little bit higher. So most people will go with the full travel credit because you can literally use it anytime over the next year to go anywhere. So if you decide, we're just going to go to Myrtle Beach. We don't want to mess, with traveling out of the country or whatever. We just want to go to California. You can still use it for that, or you can use it for multiple trips. So it's very flexible. So I always recommend that. If for some reason somebody just doesn't do it, and I never recommend this, but if for some reason somebody doesn't do it, we are at the mercy at that point. And this happened recently with a client. where we're kind of asking for forgiveness
Yeah.
from different resorts and the airlines. The airlines are pretty flexible. They will let you move your dates, and like your family's sick and you need to wait a week to go. They're pretty good. They'll let you move it out a week. Hotels it's completely up to them whether they want to zap you for the entire amount or let you move. So it's always a good idea to get that insurance, but we do work on our clients' behalf if for some reason they opt not to.
Gotcha. So let's flip the script here. So it's not the client's fault, but act of God happens and there's some kind of natural disaster or something that occurs in the location they're traveling to.
Right.
How do you guys help them on that side of things?
I have way too much experience with that. I mean, we're talking hurricanes, hurricane season. It's a great time to travel.
I'm not sure I understand.
Yeah. Sorry about the
So
watch.
if you didn't understand what she said, she's going to repeat it there for you.
I love an Apple Watch. Jeez, sorry. I told my husband I didn't want another one of these. Anyway, so hurricanes, all kinds of things can happen. And again, the cancel for any reason travel protection allows us. So if I start watching the weather for my people that have reservations during that hurricane season, and if we start to see weather problems, even if it looks like it's going to rain the whole time they're there, we can just move them up a couple months or whatever. If someone's in destination and something happens, one of the things that we do is we partner with tour operators that have 24-hour service, contacts with emergency services, so that we are working together to either get them evacuated, move to a safer destination, whatever needs to be done. They've got an army of people behind them to help them do it. Lost passports, that happens a lot. People lose their passports, and then, we're getting them to the consulate to get a new one and things like that. So
no, I think that's a really valid story to kind of bring up. So we had some neighbors that something like that happened where they got pickpocketed. I think it was in Rome, and actually their passport was part of what got taken, and so they were definitely stuck in that scenario.
Never carry your passport with you when you're sightseeing. Put it in your safe and leave it there. The minute you check in, just put it in your safe, because that thing, you don't want that thing to disappear. I mean, I had my purse stolen. Italy's like one of the top places. I mean, it's a beautiful place to go to, but you just have to be really careful with those in your shirt bags and stuff, just watching your stuff. And I put my purse right down by my feet. It was just such a dumb rookie mistake, and somebody just took it. Luckily, no passport in there. I mean, they got an American Express, but
oh my gosh.
They went to McDonald's and bought $200 worth of hamburgers.
Oh my gosh. I don't know if I could support that diet there.
And then American Express is like, are you sure that wasn't you? I'm like, seriously, I'm in Florence. I'm not going to McDonald's and buying $200 worth of hamburgers.
I mean, I hear it tastes differently in all the different countries, so maybe you just wanted to experience it. So what are some stereotypes that people have, or maybe ideas that you can debunk about your industry and what you do? What are some things that people assume that you take care of, or are surprised maybe that you guys do?
I think the most, if someone has never used a travel advisor, a lot of times they think they're going to spend more, and that is not the case. We work really hard to make sure we're competitively priced. So if you are booking, I'm looking at the package that I'm providing and I'm cross-checking it. A lot of times we can even be less. I don't guarantee that, because I think the service we provide is definitely worth, using us. Yeah. But I certainly am not going to expect you to pay a lot more just for our service. So I cross-check our pricing. So that's the number one thing I hear is, does it cost extra to work with a travel advisor? And the answer is no. Different advisors do different types of travel. And so, for example, I have one that just does destination weddings in large groups. She's not going to do a cruise. She's not going to do, Europe. She's not going to do Las Vegas. But because we have a team of 12 people, when she gets those requests, she just passes it along to others. I would say we don't do, one thing we're never going to do is anything through VRBO, Airbnb, and we do get a lot of people that ask for that.
Interesting.
And we can't. It's not that we have anything against it. Heck, I've stayed in one myself. It's just, I have no way of vetting it. I have no way, unless I have gone to that house and stayed in it and have a relationship with the owner. I don't know if it's going to be clean. I don't know if it's going to have the fire alarms in it. I don't know if it's going to be carbon monoxide detectors. I mean, that's been an issue. I don't even know if it exists. So we can't make that promise. What we're doing when we're handing someone an itinerary and they're entrusting us with their services, that we have vetted the place that they're staying at. And even the way we do that is either we can't go to stay at every hotel in the world. Mm-hmm. So a lot of the ones in the Caribbean and Mexico we have been to that we recommend. But when we're getting into European destinations, we work with tour operators that do vet them for us. Mm-hmm. So that's the only reason we do have villas and houses we can use, but they're not through those,
Gotcha.
methods.
So it sounds like in working with you guys, trust is a huge facet of your business, and the fact that they know that if you're putting them in a certain location, it's of value and it's of a high caliber.
I think that's probably the top reason why people call a travel advisor. Mm-hmm. I mean, as they're sitting there looking up things online and becoming overwhelmed with all the choices, and they're about to spend a fair amount of money on it, is this really what it says it is online? Is it going to look this way, or is it going to be, nothing like the picture? And so giving you that peace of mind, because we'll tell you, this place is dated. It's a beautiful beach. Mm-hmm. I just made this call to somebody. I said, the beach is beautiful. The restaurants are great, but the rooms are old. Mm-hmm. They're going to look old. Nothing wrong with that, but now you know.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's trust is a huge reason that people come back to us too.
Well, and let's be real, photographers are good at what they do. If they're supposed to highlight a space, they're not going to be showing you all of the negative things, or at least those are not the pictures they're going to be used if they're marketing a location.
I mean, there might be a little bit of fluffing of stuff, I mean, there's definitely been resorts that I've showed up at and went, oh, that water's not as blue as that picture, I mean, so it's just getting the reality. And there's also like different vibes for different resorts. I mean, I'm thinking more like all-inclusive resorts, right? Yeah. Some of them are very family friendly and, geared towards that. And some of them you're like, woo, it's wild time. So you want to be careful not to send, mom and her 2 little kids and dad to wild time place. So it's getting that sort of feel for, what the vibe of it. When I go to a resort, I'm looking around to see who's there. What's the demographic? How old are they? How young are they? I don't, on the flip side, I don't want to send somebody who's in their 60s to a place where everybody there is 25 and 30 and they're going to feel, unless they, that doesn't matter to them, but, so that they can feel like they're kind of with their peers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, not high school spring break.
That makes sense. Yeah.
So what about some of the unique things that you've gotten to book and to schedule? Is there anything that kind of pops into your brain where you're like, wow, we were just so excited to have this opportunity to do this?
Oh, there's so many. I mean, Iceland's definitely been a hot place. Not really hot. You get what I mean.
Yeah.
Place that people want to go to. I think... And Hawaii is one that I lived in Hawaii and have been there many, many times. So it's kind of a passion for me to book trips to Hawaii for people. And I think those bucket list trips I love, and we all love doing the Caribbean. They're fun. But when you're putting together a trip and somebody says, I'm a real foodie, or they have specific things that they want to do, and you put that package together and they get to do it, and they're like sending you pictures while they're on the trip, and that's where the reward of the job really comes through.
Oh, and obviously that's probably one of the reasons why your company has been nominated for numerous local awards as well.
Yeah, we were Raleigh's best last year. We've won several through different, like the Sandals resorts and things like that. We're preferred Sandals agency. And we're very proud of that for sure. I was recently talking to a client or it was a new person calling in, and I said, hey, how'd you find us? And she said that she just Googled and Trip and Sip Travel came up as the top, which is great. But then she said we also had some of the best reviews on Google. So, that's what it's all about. This is a service. We're providing a service. I don't make the resorts. Yeah. So, that's where we need to excel. And the way that we continue to thrive and grow is to do an excellent job so that people just keep coming back and telling their friends about us. And that's really how our business has grown, is more through word of mouth than anything else.
Well, and I think that's the most powerful referral, is somebody who's actually saying that they've had a good experience and then passing it off, because then that the trust value is already there. They're going to let you do your job, and then you're going to provide the experience that they're hoping for. So as folks are continuing to move to the area, obviously one of the big things that they're trying to rebuild is their sense of community. So how do you guys feel like you help a value add locally here in RDU with all of these new folks coming? Do you feel like your company kind of has a foothold and a presence in providing that type of atmosphere that maybe they had coming from like a small town up north or something like that?
It's interesting. We have a lot of people that live up north that call us. So it's, I do think that when someone moves to Raleigh, having a local agency, we have an office, they can come sit down and meet with us. I mean, I get couples that meet with us, I get families. I just did a 30th anniversary for a couple and they both came in. And if someone's doing a group, I think there is that. Not everybody wants to sit face to face, but if they want to, they can, and we're involved in the community. We're involved in getting out and networking and doing good works. So I think it offers that. And we certainly do. We're not opposed to doing local travel. We, do Charleston, Savannah, different things that are in the area. That are driving distance. So yeah, I think that there's definite advantage as you're moving to this area to reach out to a local travel agency.
So if somebody's interested in booking their next trip with you guys, what's the best way to contact y'all?
Well, we have a website, www.tripandsip.com, and on there it says travel advisors, and you can just click down and see all of us. So just pick the one that suits your fancy. Different ones have different specialties. So like if you're looking for a cruise, Rita's on there. I do cruises. Lisa does cruises. So anyway, you'll see sort of what people's passions and specialties. We have a Disney specialist. And so then it shows their email, their phone number. So either way is fine.
Well, we will go ahead and put all that information down below in the description of this episode for you so you can reach out to Karen and the rest of her staff and schedule your next visit to wherever your heart desires. I'm Laura Richardson with Relevate. All right, y'all, thank you for joining us today. Be sure to like, share, and follow us on Instagram as well as YouTube. We're also on Apple Podcasts. Again, I'm Laura Richardson with Relevate.